You are listening to the Psychology and Esoteric podcast with Marina Stoichkova, your weekly show for spiritual advice.
Hello, dear friend. You are listening to the new episode from the new season of the podcast. And we are actually starting with an important shift. So we have changed the name of the podcast. Now it's called Psychology and Esoteric Podcast. It's not a really fancy name, but I think that it describes very well what we are talking about here and what you can learn about here. So here is to many new episodes and lots of interesting topics you can learn. And I would like to start with a pretty important topic. It's called holding the space. And you will learn what this means. Perhaps you have heard it, or maybe you haven't, both is fine. So we will explain what is this actual space that's being held, also who is doing this holding and how it is done. So of course this is kind of a metaphor, but it's also actually very accurately described in a way. So the type of space we are talking about is energetically. You might want to call this spiritually, or you may come up with some other words, but we are not talking about the physical space like room or something that you can see with your bare eyes, with your naked eyes. So it's something symbolic, it's something internal, but it's even more important than the actual physical space in many situations. So the space that we are talking about, or this idea to hold the space, is about energy. It's about internal containment. Now, who is doing this? First of all, of course, you need to do that for yourself. You need to be able to hold the space, and we'll explain more what exactly that means. But who is doing that? First of all, it's you. And it's very helpful when you learn how to do that for yourself, to hold the space for yourself, to hold it for whatever you are experiencing right now, whatever needs to be held right now within you internally. There are also other options, of course, and this applies to some kind of therapy work or consulting, or even some kind of support between people. So you might hold the space for someone else also to handle with certain energy, emotion, experience, you name it. Of course, this is extremely important in psychotherapy. This is actually one of the main tasks in the process, to hold space for whatever comes, for whatever needs to be healed, transformed, experienced. So this is very important. You can do this for yourself, but you can also hold the space and allow even the people that you love to handle with something. And here I don't mean that you will solve their problems. It's more about support and being there for someone and allowing them. I really think that allowing is also kind of a synonym of this idea, holding the space. Allowing, internally allowing whatever needs to happen. And let's describe a little bit more by also explaining what this is not. And one of the important things is this is kind of like the opposite of suppressing something. suppressing an emotion, suppressing a feeling, also neglecting, denying, trying to escape from something, trying to pretend it's not there, trying to push it. So all of that is like the opposite of holding the space. If you are pretending that you are not going through something, or if you resistance is also an opposite attitude of holding the space. If you resist the way you are feeling, if you want to push it out of your system, if you want to hide, all of that is literally the opposite of holding the space. So holding the space would mean acceptance, allowing the emotions, the experiences. It could be about ideas, it could be even about some kind of states, emotional state, physical state, even something undescribable. That's still holding the space. And why is this actually helpful? First of all, we know this for sure. If we suppress something and if we deny it, we are not really taking care of it. You can bet that it will come into your life in some kind of other form. And always, it will be more difficult. It may show up as some kind of subconscious pattern. It may come through another person in your life or a situation. So energy does not disappear. Even if we try to deny it or suppress it, we are not literally getting rid of this. We might postpone something, but we cannot escape. So this is very important to understand that when we hold the space, we are accepting the reality, basically, whatever needs to show up, whatever is really happening internally and externally to happen. And the benefit of this is that this is also a way to transform it. Perhaps you have heard this saying that you cannot change something that you don't accept or something that you don't see as something real. So you have to admit the problem or the situation or the feeling, and only then you can change it, you can improve, you can transform. So this is really the first step of transformation. Allowing, holding the space for pain, for bitterness, for disappointment, frustration, confusion, sadness, anger. We can go on like that for a really long time. But here is the important piece. When we hold the space, we are kind of also separating a little bit from this. So those are my emotions, those are my feelings, but they are not literally me. And you might be more in the space of the observer. Again, still not disconnecting from whatever is happening, but at the same time knowing that this is not all of you. You are containing that, but there is more than that. And when you hold this energy, hold the space for this energy, it can be transformed. It can be healed and it can be resolved. It's not like a magic wand, so sometimes the positive impact might be quite fast, but not always, of course. Deep-rooted issues need lots of time and processing, that is true. Sometimes like more superficial negative states might be released much faster. That's quite logical, of course. But when you hold the space, you are starting the process of transformation. This also comes from physics. Perhaps you might have heard about this idea that when you are observing something, or when something is being observed, the process changes. The reactions are different. So physicists, of course, have their own names, and it gets really scientific and all of that. But it's almost like a principle, like a general rule. So we apply the same thing in psychology, in our internal representations and experiences. So when we observe and we hold the space for whatever we need to, this can be transformed. And it's actually something essential in therapy. Of course, in the therapy process or consulting or whatever, the role of the therapist or the supporter is extremely important. But you can also practice this on your own. And it doesn't need to be for like extremely long time. And also, it doesn't mean that you have to force the negativity. It's really allowing. It's not, okay, I will push myself so I feel this sadness deeply and then I will get rid of it. This is also not helpful. This is trying to manipulate a little bit the process. Usually doesn't work. So it's about allowing. It's about, in a way, relaxing, allowing yourself to relax in whatever comes. And something I want to clarify here. This should not be mistaken with passiveness. So we are not saying that when you feel bad, you should just accept this and give up. It's not about giving up. It's not about being passive. It doesn't mean that you should not take action or do something to improve your state or whatever. But first, you really need to hold the space for this energy. And then you can really work with that symbolically. So again, I repeat, it's not about passiveness or giving up or just accepting that life is hard and awful and that's just it. You should, accept the awful life. No, it's not about that. It's more about not escaping and not denying. And learning also to relax in the midst of challenges. In the yoga practices, I find this very helpful actually. And this is something I honestly personally enjoy. And very often the leader of the group or the teacher is saying this. So allow yourself to feel the way you feel. Maybe today you are not that energized, or maybe you are distracted, maybe you are tense, maybe you are sore, whatever. Allow it to be. And maybe your practice is not going the way you want it to go. Okay, let it be. Allow, accept. And it's so amazing that when you do that, your whole experience changes. You actually can relax. Okay, I feel confused, I'm stressed, I'm worried, I'm tired, I'm bored, whatever. And when you kind of like admit this in front of yourself and accept it for what it is, somehow towards the end of the practice, the energy has shifted. It's not always going to the actual opposite, like feeling extremely energized, ready to rock the world or whatever. It will become whatever you need to experience right now. It might be peace, it might be more comfort, it might be just acceptance. Okay, it is the way it is, but it won't always be like that. And that's again a relief. So you need to trust the process. You should not try to manipulate and control the process. That's not gonna work, because this is also kind of the opposite of what we are going for. And I want to recommend you to try practicing this, maybe even starting with just a couple of minutes a day. You might choose a particular topic, emotion, situations, or something important in your life and practice with this every day. Or you might be just present with whatever shows up every day and hold the space for this. Or you might try to combine both. This may also work, of course. But see how things will change for you when you stop fighting with yourself, basically, and with the energy in your life or whatever is happening. Just stop fighting, which again does not mean giving up. Then many things are changing in your life, and it's definitely worth trying. So I think this is a very nice topic to start with during this year. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you next time.
Thank you for listening to this episode, and don't forget to visit marsstars.net. You will find tons of free resources, as well as courses, membership community, and consultations.